Greetings in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. I'm Andrii, and I'm here joined with a big crowd: Robert, Adam, Fred, Edward, Ashley, and Anthony. And we will be reading the September 14th, 2024 Kuo channelings, continuing from where we left off last time, and also discussing it. All right, so I guess I'll read the question. I have a question. Kuo, in our current configuration of third density, we assign power to the ego, and with that comes responsibility, and the ego can often be a great catalyzer for a spiritual evolution, which in part seems counterproductive if the ultimate goal is to release the individualized self-awareness. So I would like to ask Kuo if there is a means by which we can balance the egoic and spiritual drives and find more grounding in the presence that doesn't also leave us less motivated in our spiritual pursuits, if that makes sense. Is there a balance between present moment awareness and egoic pursuit that allows for a more full and vibrant expression in this incarnation, that allows for spiritual evolution without becoming more divided? Robert? You're muted, Robert.
Here I am.
There you go. Okay, all right. Now go ahead.
First off, I would just like to express my gratitude for being able to read Quo for the present, people, and the future. Quo, we have received your query, our sister, and we appreciate the balanced nature of this query and its scope, which takes in the art of living a life on a planet as seeming individual who is moved and pulled and pushed by the desires of an individual, of being one among and separate from many, while simultaneously feeling the gravity and the call of that inner light which has awoken within the self, which calls one into higher seeking in order to pierce the illusion of separation and to seek once more the unity of all things. There is within this seeker a full range or spectrum of experience and desire running up and down the energy centers. We would begin by clarifying and reminding that there is no wrongness or judgment for desires expressed at any station along this spectrum of energy, perception, and experience. There is no judgment, even and especially for those entities among your peoples who are fully asleep, you may say, within the illusion, which is to say, fully identified with the thoughts, the body, the finite aspects of a limited incarnation, and the ways of a world that is also, for the most part, forgetful of the divine nature of self and reality. It is, you may say, okay to be in this state. It is okay to be human. It is okay if you wish to use the concept of ego to be driven by that ego and the egoic desires. It is, in fact, a natural and normal response to the veiled condition repeated on planet after planet. It is not an unfortunate byproduct of an illusion per se, but a carefully designed construct to help facilitate the journey of separation so that the choice through the faculties of will and faith may be made for the journey of return. When that journey will awaken and commence for the seeker is unique. Some may take to this quickly. Some may take many, many incarnations for this to awaken. But once this journey gets underway, the self asks of the self and of its world questions which are not so centered in the questions of survival and personal identity and social identity, but are questions centered in love, truth, clear seeing, and eventually the encompassing and the making space for the sacred core dimension of life. Then the journey may accelerate, and these questions of balance, which are contained in your query, become more and more important to the seeker. The spiritual journey, we may clarify, is not one that seeks to squash or obliterate that self, which may be called egoic. To the spiritual seeker who burns brightly, who follows the path consistently through the valleys of the incarnation, through the dark nights and the many deaths, losses, sacrifices that often accompany the path, the seeker who persists even when seemingly surrounded in darkness, to trust that there is a light, that the process will, if trusted, lead one to that which one seeks, which is forever and always the present moment. There may come that gradual or perhaps even dramatic realization of the illusory nature of the ego, or synonymously, illusory individual self, such that the veil itself can be dismantled over time. The illusion can be dissolved. All can, while within the third density human state, be seen again as one. Though there is metaphorical richness to be mined in the frame of battle, ultimately it is not an adventure of conflict. The ego is not an antagonist or a villain or a bug in the system or something to be gotten rid of. It is that construct which is formed by many inputs, including the impact of the environment, of other selves, and of catalysts that are experienced within the incarnational journey. And even more fundamentally, the intentional programming of the pre-incarnational soul in concert with its higher self to create this framework or construct of the ego. The individual itself is a learning vessel, one designed to be imbalanced and imperfect so that certain lessons may be facilitated. And the balance of seeking to see through the illusion of the individual self while simultaneously seeming to be a manifest individual self within your plane is not to seek to escape the latter, but to love the latter unconditionally, to accept the self as the self. This acceptance can be seen to have two levels. For conceptual understanding may say a dual way of expressing. And that is, first, the acceptance of the imperfect self and the self's biography and the many choices and the seeming missteps that have been made, the loved ones that have been hurt, the misapprehensions, the missed opportunities, the forgetting, the losing of one's way, the harm especially that one has rendered to oneself, the many and often hidden places within the self where there are mechanisms of judgment, judgment of the self, of the moment, of others. These discovered aspects of the self can be, over time and with work, accepted and, with sweet mercy, forgiven. that these weights may be laid down upon the road, that the self may lighten its heart and its being. And through such work, this individual self or ego does not necessarily vanish, but becomes less opaque, becomes less of a separate, walled-in entity, less in compulsive need to defend its existence from the perceived threats of diminishment, from perceived mirrors that remind it of its core hidden fear of inadequacy, insufficiency, and insubstantiality. Surrender from this perspective is a difficult work to arrive at, because it is the surrender of, as you may see it, the grip of the ego upon its illusory, freestanding existence.
All right. Let's stop there, because this is a very long answer. Let's parse through what we got. I was thinking of how this reminds me of when I asked the GPT 401, for a answer, then it's like takes a long time. Then that means you asked a good question. So I guess they must have asked a good question, because Kua took a long time to respond. All right, so guys, what do you think of what's been said so far?
I wanted to go not at the very beginning, but there was a part where he said where the individual self is a learning vessel designed to be imperfect, and it's designed by us for us. So in saying that, I think what he was hinting at originally, and maybe they'll get more into the answer to the full answer to the question at the end, but it seemed like he was trying to hint at like a type of imposter syndrome where your ego and everything is battling inside of you, and how to quiet that down and balance it so that you can actually conduct work properly. And I think I understand, where, but I want to get into more of what they mean exactly, because I can't remember the rest of that paragraph. I can't write that fast.
Can you tell me the quote that you got?
It says the individual self is a learning vessel. That's an exact quote. And then it's designed to be, I think, imperfect, as is the next word that they said, but I didn't get the rest of it.
It's a learning vessel. Yeah, I found it. The individual self, here, I'll make it big for you guys. The individual self is a learning vessel, one designed to be imbalanced and imperfect, so that certain lessons may be facilitated, and the balance of seeking to see through the illusion of the individual self, while simultaneously seeming to be manifest individual self within your plane.
Hi, Chris. This is Adam with Guidehouse IT Service Desk giving you a call back about
Adam.
280-3465 about your new computer setup. Just trying to see if we can work with you on this. Feel free to give us a call back.
Sorry,
Our phone number
Adam,
is 1-800-483-2393.
Okay. 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 Let's try that again. The individual.
He's got a really nice telephone voice, don't you think?
Yeah, he's got a great telephone voice. The individual. That was not expected. But there's many unexpected things in this world. Okay.
This is live TV here.
Sorry about that, guys. I thought I muted.
Yeah, you did. But for some reason, the mute doesn't work on your device very well. Try talking now, Adam. No, we can't hear you. Okay, it works this time. Okay.
Yeah, that's happened before.
Yeah, it has. Strange.
He said you got a really nice telephone voice, dude.
Okay. So anyways, what do you guys want to say about that one for now?
Okay, so that whole thing for me, yeah, it kind of it's the same kind of thing that they said before. That we need the ego to really make the most of the catalyst while we're here. You know, we have to have it to understand the separation, the singularity of life here. We need to understand that, and the filter that we see it through is the ego, right? You know, is the thing. But that there was made by us, so we design the filter that we want to view the next life through. Yeah, and that all comes in through pre-incarnative stuff. Yeah, so the imperfect way that we design ourselves is so that we've got all these imperfections that we use as catalysts to help us guide for this, to do all the learning we've got to in this time round. That's like kind of how I see it, and I feel that's always what they say, that the ego is important. Yeah, you can't try and kill the ego. You know, it's good to keep it under control, to know what it is. That it is just the vessel, the incarnated conscious kind of this set of distortions and catalysts that are going to give us the opportunities to learn what we need to learn. So that's why all of us have the personality that we have. We go through the things that we do so that we can come out the other end better.
The trick is then doing it without losing motivation.
Well, no, the trick is to actually understand that fact and not let the ego be the thing that you connect to. Know that you're the spirit inside the body, the vessel of the body, and that the ego is just the way that you have got to bridge the gap. Yeah, the spirit's one side, that's not physical. The body's the other side, it is physical, and the mind and that filter, that ego, that veil that exists is the thing that you get to be able to get what you need out of the incarnation, right? So it's a case of accepting that, learning about yourself, learning the things that you've got to do, that you're here to do, the lessons that you've got to learn in this incarnation, the things that your past life contracts and things that have made you into who you are, why you live that way. Yeah, and then incorporate all those things, incorporate the lessons that you learn so that you can rise above it, so that you don't make the same mistakes you did in previous lives, so that the reason you go for all this hardship and all this bullshit, you know it's for a reason. It's to guide you to where you've got to be for the next step. You know, and that's why we go through the shit. That's why we go through the despair and the hardship. That's why we hate ourselves and whatever else. It has to be a lesson of learning to get past those things. You know, for me, right, the yellow ray thing, man. When I was trying to kind of activate all the chakras, and I got to the solar one, and it comes down to that brutal honesty and love of self, and understanding that you're creator, understanding that you are incredible, no matter how fucking shit it might seem. That every single thing that I've been through in my life, every negative thing, every single one of them was there for a reason, to get me to be who I am when I needed to be that person now. And if I hadn't gone through any single one of those horrible things, I wouldn't be that guy now.
Yeah, it says
so. All of those things guide us to get to the other end, right?
Yes. This acceptance, it says, this acceptance can be seen to have two levels: the acceptance of the imperfect self and the self's biography. That was in the channeling, and so surrender from this perspective is a difficult work to arrive at, because it is the surrender of, as you may see it, the grip of the ego upon its illusory freestanding existence.
It doesn't want to see anything else. The idea that the personality, that consciousness is an emergent thing from biology, would say that there's no spirit, and you don't need a spirit. Yeah, all you need to do is connect to the brain being you, and the body being you, and then you don't need a spirit, you don't need a god, you don't need anything else. You can survive purely on that knowledge. But that isn't how it works. Neuroscience has not been able to find consciousness inside the brain. That's not how it works. Yeah, they've been looking for a long time, and all they've done is actually come up with more and more stuff that sounds like the occult every year for the last 30 years. It's absolutely bonkers, right? Like, this is the point. We are not the ego. Yeah, the ego is the emergent property of the brain that we use to understand the world around us. But who's the one that actually understands? It's the spirit inside. That's the thing that observes, that's the thing that watches, that's the thing that hears the voice in your head. The ego is the one that says stuff. You don't have to listen to it. That doesn't mean that you know it's not you, but you don't relate to that thing because you don't need to listen to it because inside that the spirit knows the fucking truth, and the ego might be chatting shit, but it doesn't mean that you as the spirit needs to listen to it. Anyway, sorry, Andrii, love you.
Yeah. Well, that was a great summary. But Fred, in case you're there, I did get an analysis from about that paragraph you were talking about.
Okay.
And so it talks about individuals as a learning vessel, a container, for learning, and it's designed to be imbalanced and imperfect. This refers to inherent dualities and the imperfections in our character. And I mean, that gives us something to grow based on. And it facilitates lessons, and you can see through the illusion, manifesting individual self. So the balance discussed isn't about transcending or escaping the physical self. Instead, it's about unconditional love, loving the self with all of its imperfections as is. This love is about accepting not being in love with the flaws, but recognizing their role in our growth. And accepting the self involves embracing every part of oneself, including the ego, without denial or rejection. It's about acknowledging the self's role in one's spiritual journey rather than trying to negate or transcend it prematurely. Yeah, I completely agree with this part. Like, that is really the crux, I'm sure, of this lesson that we're going to find out as we go deeper into it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk about killing your ego. You know, the whole ego death thing. You do to DMT or whatever else. And now it's the good spiritual things, an act of transcendence and that. As somebody that does that quite fucking regularly, yeah, realistically, you're always you. Doesn't matter any of these things. You kill the ego bit, but the consciousness is still you. Right? I don't know about anyone else, but if anyone else has ever done any past life things, I was still me in that past life. I was not different. I was a different person. I had a different ego. But I was no different, as in the consciousness inside that ego. And I recognized that, even though the person was a different person.
Anthony, did you want to say something? Or
no, I was gonna.
No. Oh, okay, because you unmuted. I thought you were gonna say something.
I wasn't. I was going back. Edward is everything Edward says is spot on. I would say it the same, just using different words. But yeah, I would exactly what he says as far as with the past lives, because I've had those experiences too as well in regressions. And you're exactly right. The personality is different, but that which observes the core aspects of it, the desire to help somebody, the desire to do music, the desire to have friendships, those core aspects of yourself that you remember from the time that you're born with, those aspects never change, and you take more or less of it into each incarnation, as Edward talked about last time.
See, now it's weird that you mentioned the whole kind of like being a good person and things like that. Now, I know for a fact that my last life I was not a good person, right? And being inside those experiences, I remembered the kind of the lack of emotional connection that he had, but I also am so unbelievably aware of the biases that I was born with, and that I've never ever been okay being the way he as a personality was.
Exactly right, and because that was
right, his ego, yeah. I cannot connect with it in any way. It disgusts me, but that's because I am the direct reflection of those biases that he created. The exact, I'm living karma in action, right? But like I said, the guy inside him is still the same guy inside me, and it's so weird, but it's very very clear as well. So yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're just drifting a little bit. So let's read a little more. Robert, are you ready?
Reading's awesome, by the way, Robert, man. Seriously, love your voice, dude.
Mm-hmm. I'm ready.
Great.
The ways that the self has crafted a separate identity depend also upon illusory constructs of comparison, constructs that feed the identity by its acquisition of things, be those things knowledge, money, status, property, personal achievement, perceiving of the self in some virtue that is appealing to the self. These outer costumes that the self may wear, even be they those which are fashioned in a positive sense, still create the sheath of outer identity, which may obscure the inner identity of the soul nature, and even deeper still, the inner identity of the self that is not other than the Creator. And through this work of knowing this imperfect outer shell, forgiving this imperfect outer shell, surrounding this surrendering this imperfect outer shell, that shell, as it were, becomes transparent to the one. That transparency necessarily and without effort upon the seeker's part shines outwardly in radiant style to those about one and to the world about one. But that transparency, first and foremost, is known to the inner self, to the consciousness. One can, in this ascending upward journey, become more conscious of the Creator within the self, the boundless, infinite beingness or ground of beingness that is the self's true nature. Not running away from this outer imperfect personality shell, but realizing that while including the personality shell, the true self is not this outer entity. The true self is playing a role that can be unconditionally loved and not resisted, a role that can be embraced. But the self's awareness expands to deep interior levels, the circumference expanding and expanding outward to realize that the self, the true self, has no bounds. The true self is not born. The true self does not die. Your body may experience dis-ease. Your limbs may be torn from your body. You may be upon the stage of the incarnation attacked or accused. You may suffer devastating loss. You may experience all manner of limitation and suffering. These things happen to you and your emotional body as responses. And this catalyst is processed through a framework, and this catalyst is processed through a framework that was designed as you came into the incarnation, that was further modified as you underwent an incarnation that has time within it, ages of your own past habits and biases and karma. This catalyst seems to happen to you and is processed through these circuits of energy centers that you have designed and developed. But in your awareness, you know, not upon an intellectual level, you know on a foundational level, you know in your heart, in that heart that you are inhabiting, that these are waves upon the surface and that you are the ocean. And in that ocean is stability, permanency, and peace. You can...
I love Quo.
Love you, Quo. Yeah. You can witness these waves. You can have clarified reactions to the waves that you may navigate the circumstance as needed, so that you may find creative ways to be of service, to shine love. But in this awareness, you are not enslaved or shackled by the storms upon the surface of the ocean. You experience them, certain they are in your field of awareness. They may touch you, they may impact you, but your awareness has deepened and expanded into the ocean, into its depths, that you will be less pulled and pushed. You will cling less to what is happening upon the surface and some attempt to defend that which is insubstantial. You may rest with calm repose, with equanimity that is not attached nor avoidant, but can accept the moment as it is, as if the self had chosen for exactly this circumstance to unfold, because this self is in tune and in harmony with the universe, and understands that the self is not a victim of circumstance, but that free will is unfolding ever in perfection.
Amen.
And in this balance, we were describing the two layers or natures of acceptance. There is the acceptance of the imperfect self, and more deeply, there is the acceptance and allowance and permission of the perfect self. There is the understanding that can come to your hearts because it is your nature. It is not something you become. It is not something you earn. It is already your birthright and your nature to know that you are truly perfect beings. Embodying this, allowing this, trusting and accepting this in your awareness bleeds out, radiates out into acceptance of the apparent distortions as well, including those of the ego. It is not an either or. It is a coexistence. It is a both and. The self rests in a balance between the apparent distortions and the total perfection of the self. The self rests in a balance between seeking to become and knowing that the self already is. Rest in that balance between an ego which feels that it is incomplete and unwhole, and an awareness that knows that whatever happens, whatever choice is made, the self is already whole, already complete. And in this balanced awareness, the self serves as a beacon to other selves who have this same birthright, the same awareness, but who, like so many of you, have forgotten intentionally so that they could play a game. The thing is, as you may say, the game includes suffering. And it is that suffering that you, as a positively oriented seeker, wish to speak to help alleviate, not necessarily by doing the lifting for anyone, but reminding them that through forgiveness, the forgiveness of the already forgiven true nature, that they can let down their weight. They can choose to, over time and through work and consciousness, release and heal and use that suffering in an instructive manner. We would conclude by speaking to this recognition of the illusory nature of the individual self. This is, while much closer, so to speak, to ultimate truth, a much less distorted representation of beingness, a sort of pinnacle work, you may say an apex work. We give this instrument the image of the point upon the pyramid or the mountaintop. It is, though we are reluctant to speak in terms of linear sequence or causality in the temporal sense, it is the capstone work that rests upon a mighty amount and quality and intensity of work that preceded it. the work of all the balancing, all the knowing, all the accepting, the work of one's daily catalyst of healing the relationships, of healing the self, of making exploration after exploration into love and finding where the self has abused it and misunderstood it and kept it even from the self and from others, of learning to speak and to see with truth and honesty and clarity, to balance the imperfect and the perfect, so on and so forth. Resting on and propelled forward by this work, the self may indeed move into the indigo ray and may stand at the precipice of infinity, stand at that gateless gate and peer out. One may see it, or rather, open up in order to let that sacred truth of the true self make contact with the individual self, with the ground of the earth, that the sacred dimension within the self may transmute the chemical body and the mind and the thoughts of the self and the environment around the self, that all once again becomes holy. It is possible in this place that the illusory self vanishes, so to speak, which is not to say that the past has been erased, that all past habituated tendencies within the incarnational stream have been eradicated, or that the self has no personal color or personal flavor that is unique to the self and its unique journey. For it is a unique representation of the Creator that had an experience like no other across the infinite creation. It is just to know that this self, this individual self, was but one wave, and the self is an ocean. The individual self, being the drop or the river, has merged back into the ocean. The self knows not upon an intellectual level that there never was separation, there never was ignorance, even that the self had been the self all along, and that self is the all self, is one with all things. The self's motivations then do not arise from the egoic being, for there is no sense of there being this separate self. The separate self is not the existence of a body, the existence of thoughts within the mind, or the accumulated memories of seemingly past experiences. The illusory self is the conviction that there is a separate self. It is a core program, a core story. It is that which becomes dissolved in the recognition of the self as the creator. Having channeled for quite some time through this instrument, we would now transfer our contact to the one known as Jim. We are those of Quo.
Thank you, Robert. That was another very long piece. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Love you guys. I loved reading that. I was getting chills, and I'm just like, I'm rubbing my dog's belly. It was amazing.
Seriously, Quo is just so poetic. I don't understand. It's all the time.
Okay, Fred wanted to say something too.
Can you go back to the part where it talks about time being the capstone? I want that quote. That was beautiful. It's perfectly said. It is. It's like poetry.
Here. I'm just going to get the summary here, and then I'll go back.
Okay, right. So while you're doing that, okay, right. So, did you hear the bit where he mentioned about how when you go in, when you meditate and you go inside, you actually look at kind of the boundaries of self from the inside out. There is no end. You will keep going, and the space in which your consciousness exists is boundless. It's endless, and it doesn't matter how long you meditate for. You will keep going out. So there's a thing. Sorry, Andre.
It's
Just
okay.
quick. I'll try to be quick. So I read a paper a little while ago that actually looked at neuroscience studies where they studied people in transcendental meditation. Yeah, actually studying this exact thing where they meditated and they tried to expand consciousness and they tried to push themselves outward to, as I'm sure we've all done at some point or another, right? So apparently, when this happens, yeah, the reason that you are able to perceive a boundlessness to the self is because when you're in that point of meditation, you activate the part of the brain that deals with spatial awareness. Now, because the only real way of doing it is cutting out all of the other senses, yeah, of just disappearing inside, yeah, the part of the brain that generally deals with that doesn't have any sensory input. So while you're trying to reach out consciously, it doesn't have any data in which to build the walls. So internally, you are able to perceive your consciousness going on forever. How cool is that, man? Oh, mind-blowingly cool. Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
Okay, so I found the quote. We give this instrument the image. Here, hold on. I'll make it bigger. We give this instrument the image of the point upon the pyramid, or the mountaintop. It is, though we are reluctant to speak in terms of linear sequence or causality in the temporal sense, it is the capstone work that rests upon a mighty amount and the quality and intensity of work that preceded it. The work of all the balancing, all the knowing, all the accepting, the work of one's daily catalyst of healing the relationships, of healing the self, of making exploration after exploration into love, and finding where the self has abused it and misunderstood it, and kept it even from the self and from others, of learning to speak and to see with the truth and honesty and clarity to balance the imperfect and the perfect, so on and so forth. Is that the one you were looking for, Fred? You're muted.
Yes, I misunderstood what they were saying then. I thought that they were talking about time itself, like the construction of us having this experience of the illusion of time being the capstone. And that's not what
No, see, I kind of saw it as like, like how they describe like the magnum opus or whatever, like how you build yourself, to become better and better to actually get to that pinnacle, that point. Also, I kind of got bits of when he was talking about the tip of the mountain or the apex, kind of looking down over the life over who you are, yeah, and then looking up into infinity out of the crown chakra. Like I like the kind of the duality of that looking down on who you are and who you are being, that pyramid that's built from the base to that capstone peak where we understand what we are and we're able to look up out of the crown chakra into the infinity and actually understand because we've got there. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of what I kind of took from what you're saying, I think.
Cool. All right. So, did anyone else have any comments, or we could look at an analysis of it?
I have to say, there's loads of other bits in there. There's so many bits. Just to mention the bits of poetry you could yank out, stick together, and make an anthology of. I mean, Jesus, that was a beautiful answer, man. There's loads in there. Like the whole bit about balancing the two, yeah, right? Everyone talks about how, like, the ego is the bad bit. I mean, like half of what's it called? The Course in Miracles is just like kill your ego. But really, Ra never says that. He's always talking about balancing. He's always talking about understanding each part of what makes the mind, body, spirit complex. Like that. The three uniting things or stacks on top of one another that make us what we are. Like that. There was loads of stuff like that in there as well. Like I can't rubbish at remembering actual quotes and that, but there's the other thing, like the whole tip of the mountain thing that you mentioned. How like the hermit, the tarot card, the hermit is all kind of the guy standing at the top of the mountain, shepherding people to the top with his little like shiny torch and that. It's once again, it's that pinnacle point. It's that place we're trying to reach. Anyway, sorry, Andrea, man.
Yeah, I was just hoping we could let some other people engage in the conversation too. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Anyways, The basics, the understanding the illusory nature of identity, the ways that the self was created, a separate identity dependent upon the illusory constructs, the costumes that we wear, role of catalyst in spiritual growth. You can experience all that transcendence through awareness. You know that these are just waves upon the surface, and you are the ocean, and the ocean is stability, permanence, and peace. I know Ed really liked that one. Okay, and acceptance both. Oh, and it does talk about accepting both imperfections and perfections. Radiant transparency and service, living free from egoic shackles. You will cling less to what is happening upon the surface and attempt to defend that which is insubstantiated. And the game includes suffering, reminding them through forgiveness they can release and heal.
Okay, can I jump in? So, dude, I know, I don't want to monopolize conversation and everything, but this is one of the first times I can remember them talking about it as a game. Right now, this is important because that is how the hidden hand describes it over and over again. He also basically paraphrased that bit there where he says, the game involves suffering. That's just how you have to play. Just say, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to what it said just before about the egoic self.
Just before the game part? Here.
Yeah.
Do you mean here?
Yeah, you were reading it.
Okay, living free from egoic shackles?
Yes.
You will okay.
That transparency necessarily and without effort upon the seeker's part shines outwardly. What did I read that confused me?
I'm not sure.
Yes.
Well, here,
we'll read it
egoic
again.
one was living free from the egoic shackles. You will cling less to what is happening upon the surface, and some attempt to defend that which is insubstantial.
Okay, what does that mean exactly? And was that a typo or?
Here.
Okay. Jump in.
It's a weird way of saying it, but I know.
I got an idea.
Ed wants to give it a try.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, don't have to. I was someone else can have a go if you want. I was just going to say that there's one of it that I actually was going to say about. Right, so I don't know about you guys, but once again, when you actually kind of meditate and things and look back, like you realise, that your incarnation is actually kind of small inside this huge fuck off actual thing that we are. Yeah, and then the whole kind of life here seems like a little tiny blip in what's going to be a huge long road. Yeah, so then you're going to have to kind of realise that it's worth the effort. So I kind of felt that that's what it meant. Like you realise how impermanent and how irrelevant each little incarnation is in the big picture, but that doesn't mean that you need to stop putting effort in. Anyway, I think that's what they were getting.
So I found the paragraph, and I think it might help to reread it. You can witness these waves. So the waves of stability, like how you are that ocean. You can have clarified reactions to the waves that you may navigate the circumstances as needed, so that you may find creative ways to be of service to shine love. But in this awareness, you are not enslaved or shackled by the storms upon the surface of the ocean. You experience them, certain that they are in your field of awareness. This sounds very much like, meditation. They may touch you, they may impact you, but your awareness has deepened and expanded into the ocean, into its depths, that you will be less pulled and pushed. You will cling less to what is happening upon the surface, and some attempt to defend that which is insubstantial. You may rest with calm repose, with equanimity that is not attached nor avoidant, but can accept the moment as it is, as if the self had chosen for exactly the circumstance to unfold, because this self is in tune and in harmony with the universe, and understands that the self is not a victim of circumstance, but that free will is unfolding ever in perfection. Yeah, I really like that part. Basically,
everything's always perfect, man.
Exactly. All right, so I wanted to give a chance for people who haven't spoken as much. Adam, did you have any commentary on this long question we've been
I wrote down something towards the beginning, going back to ego. I wrote down that there is no wrong way to balance ego. I thought that was kind of wild. And it said that ego was a natural thing with the veil, and that it was a construct. And when I hear the word construct in the law of one sense, it reminds me of the archetypes, how they're concept, complex concepts. So they in themselves are constructs. So the ego, if it is a construct, that means it's a tool, because the archetypes are tools. So yeah. And the ego, I wrote down that it helps you remember that there is a present moment. So every time you can remember that you have an ego, you can remember that, like, oh, I'm in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
Or to do the opposite of that. But they also said that the veil can dissolve in 3D for us, if we balance the ego. And I thought that was kind of wild. Like, so you're saying the ego is the veil, you know?
Basically, yeah.
It is that which becomes dissolved in the recognition of the self as the creator. Yeah, well, the whole paragraph is the self's motivations then do not arise from the egoic being, for there's no sense of there being that separate self. The separate self is not the existence of the body, the existence of thoughts within the mind, or the accumulated memories of seemingly past experiences. The illusory self is the conviction that there is a separate self. It is a core program, a core story. It is that which becomes dissolved in the recognition of the self as the creator. So basically, when you reach unity consciousness, you realize that you are one with all that is. You still remember, your past and your personality and things like that. It's not that your ego has dissolved, but it's that your belief that you are separate from those around you that has dissolved. And so then you can be in that space of oneness, in that space of everything is, all is well and all will be well, and those kinds of things. All right. So Anthony, did you have any commentary on this long question that we've been discussing?
I think everyone's been pretty much right on the money. I really like what Adam said, and I'm really enjoying what Edward is saying. Yeah, I really can't add anything except for I'm going through that. It's very challenging, and I think everyone on the call knows, as we practice this in our daily lives. It's one thing to hear it and be inspired by it, but it's another thing in each moment to be doing those balances. And everyone knows that I really try my best to do it. And the more I engage it, the more it is a challenge. And it's a hard time to be consciously aware of that and accepting of that. And just over the past 3 days, I've been kind of going through a little bit of a, I guess, say psychic reading, in the sense of just trying to find a lot of self-worthiness in that, because, you plant goals, which is the egoic thing to do, that says that, hey, because I'm doing this spiritual practice, such and such should happen, like joy and ecstasy, and everyone around me should be understanding and happy with it. And when these things don't come to fruition, you start to then question, whether or not the practice is, or more so you, if you're doing the practice to the level or degree that you're trying to do. And they were speaking about that earlier, about the sixth ray and the self-worth thing. And so I think it all kind of ties together, that it's a very poignant time for this. And this is one thing that I love about the Confederation, my relationship with them, is that no matter, every single day I read the material, and every single day, somehow, some way, they speak to exactly the situations and problems that I am going through at the very moment, somehow, some way. And
Synchronicity, man.
yeah,
It's incredible, isn't it?
and I am very grateful to those teachers of mine and ours, that they're always out there moving space-time and time-space around, so these certain passages and messages can be heard right when I need them. So, yeah, everything, I love it. I love Edward. I thought I was the most excited LNL person out here, but I found out I've got my fellow brother Edward in that. And me and you, Edward, we got the same energy, brother. I'm loving it. And everything you're saying is right on point with what I would say. So, like minds, we vibrate and think alike.
We're all one, my brother. It's all good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Anthony,
And Robert,
what are your
I love,
signs?
huh?
What's your sign?
I'm a Pisces, February 25th.
Ah,
Oh, dude, we got to do the reverse tree thing.
The what?
Adam, like, remember we chatting about the Hermetic tree with the,
the astrology, make that
yeah,
into
like put it onto the tree the other way around, so you actually got your map back up to Kepler.
Well,
Huh,
we'll,
I've
we'll
never done it before.
have to
We'll
do
talk about
that
that
another
later.
time. But okay, Ashley, did you have any commentary or anything on the long questions that we've been discussing so far?
Um, no, like Anthony, everyone's just been uh, spinning gold with all the truths and wisdom that they're sharing. And then, of course, the passages themselves being very illuminating and very relevant for now. And I love the 3D scientific tie in that Ed's been giving because you're absolutely right. The more advancements that we make in quantum mechanics and in the studies of string theory and the
Neuroscience,
microtubules in
seriously,
the brain,
changes every day.
neuroscience, it becomes more and more like magic, like science fiction. These scientists, it's slowly dawning on them, and I'm like, you even realize what you're saying? Like, it's
Honestly, it's happening so
beautiful.
much. Like there's people that are so heavily atheist that are having to turn around and say, wait a
Yeah.
sec, the data's saying something different. I'm going to have to say I think we found God. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's just I love that, and that's just it's gonna get even better. And I like the discussion on how we are more than our actions, we're more than our thoughts, we're more than our emotions, we're more than this specific incarnation and everything that makes us identify with this moment. It is really just like this kind of tool that we use to navigate this specific life or a specific purpose. And we knew what we were looking for when we chose our incarnations, when we chose our families, our bodies, our points in the world, our alignments. And that's comforting because that means that everything that you are in this moment is precious and designed for a purpose. It's not for nothing, it's not a mistake. Everything is kind of divinely put in order. And I think some people need to feel that. They need to know that hey, look, it's difficult, it's hard, I make mistakes, and sometimes I screw up, but no, there's a perfection in that. There's a preciousness in that, and there's a beauty in that, because only in that can you give these kind of pearls of great price to intelligent infinity when you go through them and accept them and love them. So yeah, just beautiful all around. I love Quo too.
Like that, the bit that he said in there, he said about how each incarnation gives the creator a completely unique
Yeah.
experience. It doesn't matter how you live, who you are, what you are. Everything's unique. Everything's perfect. And like, yeah, spot on. The other thing I was going to say, the reason I love that bit about the waves, the ocean, and how we're the ocean, but the waves, because each wave is like an incarnation. Yeah, and you have the rise and the fall of that one thing, and you might get storms, you might get everything that attack that one wave, but you are the wave behind it. You are the wave in front. You are the waves in both directions, all the way across the ocean, because you're the ocean. Like seriously, like
So
quite just blows my
that's
mind.
a
It's so
perfect
amazing.
perfect energetic analogy because we can feel that because we can relate to water very well, you know? And I like that Chloe is saying you can follow the waves and like the currents and things, which is your incarnations and your experiences, but hold on to the awareness that you are the ocean, that you're still the ocean, you know?
Exactly.
I love
Yeah,
stuff like that.
I like specifically when they were talking about you are not just your emotions, you're not just your
Mm-hmm.
body, you're not just your thoughts and all that. And all I could hear after they said that was Bob Monroe's voice going, I am more than my physical body.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yes.
thought, oh man, that is so perfect. That is perfect. So
That
yeah.
was inspired on his end. Someone put
Yeah.
that in his heart.
Mhm. Yeah, I really like the, you know, I think in our culture, a lot of people have these negative feelings towards like ego, and Kuo did a very kind of smooth move of like, you know what, just forgive and love your ego, accept it for, you know, helping you stay present, helping you have a context to interact with other people, and really, you have to forgive, love, and accept all parts of yourself. All right, so we still haven't heard from Benny. Benny, did you have
Benny, dude, love you.
commentary
I
on?
didn't know Benny was there.
What,
Yeah,
Lex, love you, man. Miss you.
yeah. I don't know if he can hear us right now. Oh, there he's appearing. Did you want to unmute?
Sorry,
There we
I
go.
decided to clean up my place a little bit
Oh,
while
okay.
listening to you guys. What's good?
Yeah, well, we were
Is
just wondering.
everybody okay?
Yeah, yeah,
Love you, dude. You're awesome.
yeah. We were just wondering if you had any thoughts or questions about the long query that we had been reading.
You know, I heard stuff about ego. I heard
Mhm.
a bunch of stuff I could relate to, but I'm just listening tonight.
Okay,
I've
sounds
had
good.
a super long night. My boy's grandma's dying. That's all he has his whole life. So I've been dealing with that. So
Well, glad to hear you're there for
screwed
him.
up. So I have
He
to
is
figure
for
something.
others. That's really wonderful.
Good luck, dude.
Yeah,
Jimmy
well,
G, would
I
you like to
try, and
say?
then the only other thing is going
Go
is I'm going to the Nutcracker with Jamie. So friggin' at the Warner Theater.
That
So
sounds nice.
Oh, okay. The
yeah,
ballet.
yeah, it's the ballet. Like the last time I went was in Tampa, but I was a kid to see it. So I'm
Hmm.
gonna take her. She's Mike the Situation cousin from Jersey Shore, so it will be interesting.
Hmm.
But here, let me finish cleaning and do my stuff for my stuff and listen to my therapy.
Sounds good. All right.
Okay. So the only other thing I think, all right.
Okay.
Go.
There's one, at least one more question and answer in
Oh,
this session.
we didn't let Robert give his 2 cents on it. We
Yeah.
just
Okay.
forced,
Fine.
Yeah,
we
cool, Robert,
forced him
dude.
to read the
Robert. Yeah.
damn thing, and we didn't ask him what he thought about it.
All right, Robert. Go ahead.
Wow. Well, thank you, Fred, thinking about me like that. Well, what struck me, all the other stuff you guys were saying is right on. You know, you're on point. It's awesome to hear all you guys see these things. And another thing that struck me within the reading, I think it was mentioned twice where it was specifically alluding to the ego being programmed. It gave me the clear image of it being like a computer program, like something that we're inputting all of the coding. We're telling it, if this happens, you do that. If this doesn't happen, you do this. And it just seemed like it was all programmed. Yes, right there, intentional programming.
Mhm.
And it's just this amazing construct within the infinity of availabilities that we have. I was trying to picture that, how that construct is. And that's another example of why you don't want to kill it. It's like a work of art. You know, it was a creation on purpose by a unique artist, which is yourself. And you don't want to destroy that work of art. It's beautiful. Put it to good use, treasure it, and at some point we will shine so brightly that has no opacity whatsoever. It's transparent. But yeah, it sounded so beautiful the way it described that after all these years of my also hearing people talk about kill the ego, kill the ego. And
Right.
yeah, when I was dabbling with Native American tarot cards, the skunk, when you pulled the skunk card, one of the sayings in that is, if your ego is not your amigo, you have some work to do.
Ah, nice. That's a good one. Yeah. So I'll read that paragraph you were referring to. The ego is not an antagonist or a villain or a bug in the system or something to be gotten rid of. It is that construct which is formed by many inputs, including the impact of the environment, of other selves, and of the catalysis that are experienced within the incarnational journey, and even more fundamentally, the intentional programming of the pre-incarnational soul in concert with its higher self to create this framework of the construct of the ego.
Can I just say, once again, dragging it back to neuroscience and shit, you know, when you actually look at how the brain does build, you know, you as the thoughts that bounce around and the experiential knowledge, it is built like a computer program. It is built with and or if also like all of the same kind of functional questions and that you build into a computer program. All of those same functions are built into neuronal structure. Yeah, so like like the Arturians say, yeah, the way we built computers was streamed to us, so that we would build computers the same way the brain works. And yeah, the next step of that is we would then build AI to be the same way the subconscious works. So we actually build physical brain as our next kind of technological whatever. The point of the matter is that really does ring true, and that's exactly what they're saying there. You as a person is a programmed construct, but you're programmed into the biological computer of the brain, and that is what we perceive as the self. Even if it's not, even if the thing that perceives it is something else. This body here is been built from everything you've ever been through in the neuron structures and the memories and all of the experiential knowledge you've got that makes you you. That's the you that you were meant to build from the pre-incarnation experiences through everything you've gone through, the catalyst, the other people, and you. Anyway, sorry, Andrii.
Okay.
I don't want to monopolize. Sorry.
The other question, because we only got half.
Yeah, do that.
Okay, Fred.
That's okay. Ed always offers really good information. So, since this is an intentional program created by our self in a timeless state. I mean, when this is intentionally created, it's done before our incarnation. So it's done with purpose, done with intent, and it's done specifically, just like Robert was saying, you know, when this happens, you do this, when that happens, you do that. So would that then also, it has to, and I think I've heard other people say this, that it has to tie into certain deep-rooted fears that seem to come from nowhere, deep-rooted desires, like for some hellacious reason, I just absolutely love Puerto Rico. I feel at home there. I went there. It feels something is there. I don't like water. Weird. So, you know, just things like that. Would that be because of the way we've flavored our ego over the incarnations over time to get certain experiences on purpose? So we're doing that on purpose.
Or the other way around. We've gone through things in the past life because of the choices we made. And then because of that experiential knowledge, we plan an incarnation here that is going to give us all of the opportunities to relearn, to change those choices, to do different things. So we're born with biases, with certain things. We're born into a life, into a home that's going to give us a different set of stimuli, that's going to build a different program, build a different construct, so that we can then do something different in this life and learn the lessons that we need to, that we planned to come here to do. Yeah, like we don't know how it's going to pan out. All we can do is look at the probability structure of what's going to give us the best outcome, right? And that's what we step ourselves into, right? But that means that the you that you're born with was designed from before you got here to try to be this. And all of those biases, those things that you somehow don't like, whatever else, like the little things you connect to, that you resonate with, they're all stuff that you've learned before that are important on the changes you need to make moving forwards. You know what I mean? Like that's So it's all of those things, Fred, that you said. Those are the same things that if you do past life regressions or whatever, you'll realise they are all why you are who you are. Right? And that's just mind blowing. Right? It really is. But that's exactly what Quo's talking about, man. You build all that first. And then you come in here and you build what you need to relearn.
Yeah, that was my feeling too. Either like a past life, either in Puerto Rico or in a similar setting.
And you did probably die on a boat, dude. You did probably drown. That whole thing that you saw about the boats above you, seriously, dude, that's how you died. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that may be what happened. You were living on Puerto Rico. You tried getting off, you drowned.
Well,
anyways.
the one that I had, I was on a ship where there were ships, big ships, metal ships. I don't know what they were.
Oh,
but
yeah, that was the World War.
Yeah, I was in pieces. I don't think I was trying to escape an island. I think I was blown to bits.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, then that may be why you didn't like the water.
Well, that and the other one that I got, I was a young girl and I drowned.
Well, I think that would be even more so.
Yeah, dude, if you had 2 incarnations where you drowned, you would definitely have a fear of water now.
Yeah.
Straight up.
That's what I mean. I mean, so now the other, because it's my understanding, everything's like a coin. If there's one side of it, there's another side, or it's not a coin. So then would that also mean that maybe since time isn't real, time is illusory in this, it's not the same in when we're making these decisions. So is it possible that my next following incarnations can also be affecting my biases in this one?
Okay, dude, like, you know that I have had a real fucking whole time loop situation of his decisions affecting my decisions, and what do I do with all of those things? And I can say that, yeah, my decisions that I make now don't affect that guy. So, let's say the ones in the future, only really by connecting to your higher self, which is the one right at the end in the future that's done it all. Yeah, I think that's the only one that can really get back and change anything here. Yeah, it's all a linear order progression going that direction. But, like I said, it's not a complete linear flow, and you can accidentally affect things back there. I would not recommend it.
Well, great point said. Okay, let's do the question now. Okay, yes, cool. The question comes from She writes, I was interested in the aspect of holding space for a smoother than described transition. And since Ra only spoke of the transition that we on this planet are likely to have, I am keen to find out what an ideal transition looks like so that I can actualize, materialize, and hold space for that. Yeah, that's the question.
I am Quo and believe that we understand the query referring to an individual transition rather than a planetary transition. Is this correct?
Thanks so much for asking for clarity. I have clarified that it is definitely about a planetary transition. Ra describes that ours is not going very smoothly and with great disharmony and so forth. So the questioner wants to know, on a planet that has greater harmony, what does a more ideal transition look like between the third and the fourth density?
Thank you for the clarification of the question. There are many times throughout the experience of the infinite creator in its infinite creation that there has been the ability of a planetary population to find a cohesion of their seeking qualities that have brought them together in what you may call the social memory complex. This is a general way of describing how hundreds, thousands, millions of individual mind, body, spirit complexes can utilize their pre-incarnated choices to utilize within the incarnation these choices by processing the catalyst that is their food for growth. The catalyst may be of many forms of difficulties, of expanding one's perceptions of oneself, of another self, of the world around them as being more and more the one creator that lives and breathes in each. This is a process which takes, in most cases, many, many lifetimes, and perhaps even more than one major cycle upon a planet to accomplish. For this is a journey, a beginning journey into the concept of infinity, and that concept of finity that each spiritual seeker experiences before it becomes totally aware of the nature of the blending of energies being possible, so that there is a movement forward of more and more of the spiritual beingness of each spiritual seeker. That spiritual beingness is the one creator. When the ability of the prana, the intelligent energy of the one creator, is able to move through each entity's red, orange, and yellow energy centers, and then open up into the heart of the green ray energy center, the love of the one creator, then there is the possibility for each entity that experiences the love of the creator and sees it within others as well as the self to move forward into that social memory complex. This is the great work. This is what each here is working assiduously upon. This is what all seekers of truth desire. Those who are able to accomplish this must be able to pre-incarnatedly program this journey that is based upon previous incarnations and the journeys that were made there in opening to this heart, into opening to the love of the one infinite creator, to see it within all, to feel it within its own being. This is a process which ideally would occur within one 25,000 year major cycle. However, in many cases, it is necessary to move forward into another 25,000 year cycle when there is an additional number, shall we say, of seekers who are able to do this movement into the green ray of love. In many cases, the third cycle is necessary for this to occur. So what is ideal in the general sense is that this will occur for all of the population of the planet within 3 cycles of 25,000 years. If this occurs within one 25,000 year cycle, then you have a planet that is mostly populated by those who are what you may call more adept at working with their catalyst of seeing that which is difficult and growing from it, and seeing all about them as being the same as the self, the one infinite creator. Thus, what is the most ideal is this seeing of the self as the one creator, and seeing each other self as the one creator, and seeing all things as the one creator, then moving forward as a social memory complex. And the journey continues into the 4th density of love and understanding, the journey that is sought by all within the 3rd density. At this time, we would thank each entity here that is upon this journey of seeking to open the heart, to continue on that journey, for we feel your open heart moving through all portions of this experience this afternoon, making the heart the center focus of each entity's experience, seeing the heart of each other entity opening in love and in light. We thank you for calling for our assistance on this journey, for we are, as you, still making this journey through the densities of creation into the octave of completion, when we are all not just seeming to be the creator, but are indeed the one infinite creator. We are those of Ko, and at this time shall take our leave of this group and this instrument, thanking each again for your love, your light, the joy of your being. Adonai Vasubaragus.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
it.
so
Seriously, dude. Seriously, man. That's you all, man.
great reading. Yeah.
Aw, thank you guys. I love you. I love Quo though. Like I've said before, it's almost like channeling when you read it and you're feeling it and you're letting it flow through you. It's like I'm on their carrier wave. They're holding me and they're guiding me through it also.
Wow.
Yeah. I love it.
Getting in that flow.
That's my friends. Whoa and company.
Yeah, so I guess it was fairly basic. It was just like these people that are in a place where they're more in, processing catalyst more effectively and opening their heart and recognizing all as one. They're the ones having a smoother transition from the third to the fourth density. Is that about right, or?
I was reminded of Latvi's collective ascension, which was, if we're thinking about others who have had a more smoother transition, it's been said that they collectively, as a unit, made that push wholeheartedly to evolve to the next level. And they did collectively. And I do recall Ra commenting on almost sounding impressed that they just went for it as one in a relatively smooth fashion. So that's kind of what came to mind. We're definitely not in Latvi's position though, but it would be nice to be. Wow. But it's in our future for sure.
I'm wondering what session was that, Ashley, because I don't recall that one, but I might have missed it.
It's most likely in the is it okay? So no, it's not in the raw contact. This would be a Quo channeling.
Yeah, for sure.
This would be a Quo channeling. I know they're part of Quo, so I'm still like, oh, there's Ra in there. But yes, it was a Quo channeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I was wondering if you knew at least what decade it was.
Oh, the decade? This is not recent. I go prowling around in the dungeons of transcripts, and so this is probably from I don't know, maybe the early 2000s.
Cool.
Well, I'm not sure I can be much help, but I think is it the one where he's talking about kind of they've all got kind of separate roles and kind of like how they're all one entity, but Latway is the one that kind of delivers the messages, and Ra's the one that kind of has. So they all have their kind of separate roles and their own kind of separate parts. Is that the one that I'm thinking of?
No, it kind of sounded like this, like few there are that can blah blah blah, such as those of Latwi, and it was about the fact that they had this relatively en masse passionate seeking all on one accord, and that was, I don't think that's so common, at least in our sphere of reality. But yes, those were the words that kind of stood out to me. Few there are that blah 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 blah, something like those of Latwi. Well, sorry, I'm not much help.
Okay, that's fine. If you come across it again,
sure,
you can forward it.
Sure.
To be fair, it all makes sense though. Like the way that if we were to just step up and kind of like all as one mass do it, there's got to be kind of like places out there that have done that. Like if Latway was one of those kind of societies, then like Well, probably quite the best person to talk about it, right?
Yeah. It just kind of like it gives me the idea that anything is possible, you know?
So, did anyone see that Utarian papers that I put up on the group chat? Did you see that I put it up on the group chat the other day?
Talking about the
Uh,
Rancha?
you ran your papers.
Yeah. They're mentioning the raw material.
Is anyone that read it?
I've skimmed through it. I've skimmed through all the books that Raw has mentioned or read them.
It's huge. I'm nearly 40 hours in listening to it on Speechify at like 1.5 speed. So it's a big old book. It's bigger than that Opahasha or whatever it is. But it's just as dense. Yeah, I don't know how you say it. But it's just as dense. It's bonkers to read. But it actually talks about quite a lot of the stuff that is there in some kind of weird way. Anthony dude, that is one of those synchronicities where the thing I'm reading just happens to be chatted about by quote. There's some bits that you talk about where the scaled down part of that we're all God's conscious, that we're all consciousness of one thing. We're all one, like, I've lost track of what I was going to say. But yeah, sorry. I recommend looking at it. It's a crazy book. Sorry.
For what those of you who don't know, Ed reads a lot of books. How long did it take you to read El Hospe, Ed?
I don't know. I was at it like basically all day, every day for a couple of weeks maybe, but it was non-stop. Yeah.
He read the book in a couple of weeks. It usually takes people a decade to read.
Yeah, but I listen to it, so I kind of, I just have it playing all the
That's how
time.
you digest the material.
Do you
Not,
have-
not
I'm
everyone's
dyslexic.
on audio.
I can't read,
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that on Audible?
And a Speechify. So it's an app, basically, and you just get any PDF, so any book, you put it in, and it turns it into an audio book and reads it to you with this really kind of weird AI voice. But you get past the AI voice, you get the information.
Mm-hmm.
I have literally I have philosophical text playing all the time.
Yeah, so Edward, that's literally
so
what I
good.
do as well. I don't do anything else but that all day long, and I use an app called Voice Stream, and so that's how I've studied all the material and gone through it dozens and dozens of times.
Dude, it's way better, man. Like you can literally just immerse yourself, and then it becomes almost meditative rather than I struggle reading. It makes everything difficult.
Yeah,
I've been paying for it like through Audible to get metaphysical books.
I just find that if you just get a PDF, you can get anything. So
yeah, Ashley, if you download either Voice Stream or the app that he's talking about, literally I have over 300 metaphysical books. I got them all for free off the internet, like archive.gov.
Tons, so much. You wouldn't believe. I can literally give you access to like 15 different Google Drive libraries of occult and philosophical shit, like thousands of books. Like just ask, and I'll carpet bomb everybody with everything they could ever read.
Cool. Send me a link or a message so I can download that. I have some stuff
I'll put it on the group chat.
Listen to. Thanks.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention what I use, Library Reader. If you go, you can get it from F-Droid, and it can read PDFs, EPUBs, MOBIs, all of these file formats, and it also has integrated text-to-speech. On the Play Store, it's like $5 or something. And then you can get millions of books from Z Library, and then you just go to like Wikipedia and look up Z Library, and then you'll get their latest link, because whenever I talk about it, the FBI takes them down, but they always get a new one.
Yeah, so, that happened last time you shared it, and I went there and I couldn't go.
Yeah, that's why you have to go to Wikipedia. Go to Wikipedia to Z Library, and then they'll have the links on the side over here. Hopefully the FBI won't crack down on that now that I've mentioned it, But anyways,
If you want scientific papers rather than like actual books and stuff, because e-library is good for that. But actual scientific papers, if you go to Sci-Hub, SCIHUB, it's straight out of Russia, so it's going to be heavily blocked from places. But they will just literally give you pirate of all of the up-to-date scientific literature straight up for free. So never have to pay for a paper again. Yay!
Yeah, and you can also get the same thing just by going to article search. They basically just have copies of everything that's on Sci-Hub, which is
cool.
sometimes harder to use. Yeah, so they have article search and book search, and they're not saying exactly how many they have now, but there's millions basically. Yeah, and then you can just use this app. It's a free app if you get it from F-Droid, and has text to speech, and you can use whatever one you want. I listen to them at 450 words a minute.
Hey, does anybody know, just to ask, as we all do this, does anybody got a good way of rearranging the read order? Because the only problem I have is sometimes on PDFs, the actual reading it in the right order, it gets jumped about all over the place. And I haven't actually been able to find a good program to rearrange that properly. Does anyone have one?
Yes. Librera Reader. You can
Well, that will rearrange the order.
Yeah, you can actually if it's having trouble with the order, you can right click on it and then convert to EPUB, and then it will convert it to EPUB, and then everything will be in the correct order.
Okay. Well, just do the whole file.
Yeah, it will just convert the whole file to an EPUB. So you'll still have the original PDF, but it will also have an easier to read EPUB.
Okay, so if I just go and I get something to just convert it from a PDF to an EPUB, that'll have that. It'll do that. What is it? EPUBs don't have the pictures though, do they?
Hold on. Well, no, it will still have the pictures. However, not all PDF to EPUB converters will do a good job. I've found that the Librera Reader one does an exceptional job. It's the best one I've ever. Okay. All right. Anyways, let's try to get back to this session a little bit, because I don't know if we even covered it. Here, ChatGPT is working again. So the formation of a social memory complex, many times throughout the experience, using catalyst as food for growth, opening the heart, ideal duration, the ideal vision, seeing all as one, and encouragement. Okay, for seekers. Okay, we kind of got that. So, does anyone have any further questions? Jimmy J or Chris, would you like to say a word or ask a question, either out loud or in the chat? Okay. Anyone else have any reflections on the latest question? Should answer.
Well, the only thing I was going to say, just I'll make it quick, so I don't want to monopolize everyone's time. But there's one bit that I read ages ago that really kind of struck me with understanding the whole us all having one consciousness and us all just being different windows on the same experience. Yeah, and there's this book called I think it's called 3 Magic Words or something like that. But it basically describes how we've all got one subconscious mind. There's only one subconscious, and we're all part of it. And then really it's a very small step from that to understanding that there's only one consciousness as well, and we're all just part of that. And then the body just becomes a way of individualizing that. But it's all going to the same place, it's all understood and watched by the same eyes, because we're all one, right? So I think that there's hints of that in there as well. I'll shut up now. Love you guys.
So, anyone else? Well, next time we're going to be doing September 29, 2024, and the topics are balancing the overemphasis of development of the mind, serving those with mental disorders, violence in the Middle East, sharing spiritual life without infringing on the free will of others. Yep. And I was thinking, maybe since we're all gathered here today, and then we began this session talking about how some people in the Seattle Law of One group were struggling with the recent elections and feelings regarding it. Maybe we could do like a prayer or a meditation or something to help them with their healing, an acceptance process. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Keep me love, dude. No
Yeah.
idea why anybody gets stressed about politics. Everybody knows there's no such thing as democracy when everyone's a Mason. Why do you people get stressed about it?
I think it's always nice to offer, light love to other selves who might be struggling as they're going through Catalyst. But I think that this is a valuable time, and it's not something that can really be taken away or mitigated, because it's something that those adepts, those wanderers, kind of have to work through on their own. I mean, love and light will always be received, but I don't think it will mitigate the very real need to have some self-reflective heart moments and internal growth as far as how they're responding. There's a lot to be learned from the response that you have to anything you go through, especially when it's really strong and really somewhat traumatic for you. That's just an aside.
Well, I mean, it's exactly what we were talking about today. Your self-programmed, egoic character filtered through this 3D and experiencing Catalyst the way that you designed it to.
Right. And oh no, I lost my train of thought.
Hey, look, you can say one thing about Trump. He does provide catalyst.
And it's orange. He's orange. You're muted, Andrii. You're muted.
I agree with what Ashley was saying though too.
Oh, I'm muted.
That-
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I was saying that I had the prayer and I was going to read it now, if that's all right.
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
Oh yeah.
AJ was talking.
Beloved infinite creator, we gather our hearts, seeking guidance, understanding, and strength in these times of challenge. We open our hearts to the light of service to become beacons of love and compassion amid the catalysts arising from the recent election. May those who feel troubled find comfort in knowing that each moment offers us a choice to serve, to heal, and to grow in love. Help us to see beyond division, to recognize the one creator within every soul, and to remember that our paths are entwined, each reflecting the same divine essence. Let us radiate understanding, honoring our own perspectives while holding space for others. May we become catalysts of harmony, anchoring unity and compassion through our thoughts, words, and actions. Strengthen our resolve to serve others, to share light where there is shadow, and to uplift each heart we encounter. Guide us to transform our own inner turmoil into peaceful resolve, using the moment to deepen our dedication to serving each other and our planet. May our collective intention be woven together, forming a web of love and support that touches all. And may this service to others light the way for a more unified future. In love and light, may we always serve. Amen.
So it is.
Dude, did you write that? Or is Robo-Ra really good at writing prayer?
Robo-Ra, it was Robo-Ra.
It was Robo-Ra. Man, Robo-Ra was good at that, dude. That was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I what do you call it? The Pope likes it too, I think. Because I do activism on like Twitter and stuff, and then like I respond sometimes with prayers to the Pope, and then he says sometimes he even responds.
Really?
Wow.
Well, not to
That's
me
wild.
personally, but like one time I was praying that he also, because he was praying for the poor, and I was saying that I prayed that he also acknowledged the importance of land, that for people to have land, and then he had a follow-up tweet within like an hour or two, and he included land. And
Wow.
What, dude? You like mind hacked the Pope? What, dude? What you wrong, man? Oh, what?
Well, like if you look at the Pope's Twitter, he has very mixed kind of commentary. Like there's a lot of negative commentary, and there's a few positives, but they tend to be very brief. And so, putting in a long, loving, and kind message can really stand out.
Well, that's the same way. It's more personal though. They know you actually did it, and you're actually sending it to them or whatever. It's like the same thing as actually physically on a piece of notebook paper and putting in the mail a letter to your congressman.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different than just calling or whatever, complaining online and about something saying negative. But you actually take the time to write a well-written, positively minded letter and sign it, you're probably going to get a response.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like for my representatives, I talk to them in person.
I was going to say, especially if Robo-Ra writes it, man, they're going to listen.
Well, all right. So we're past 9 o'clock. Were there any closing questions or closing remarks from anyone?
Love you all. Anyone hanging out after?
I had a question that
Okay.
I want answered before we close and just hang out, because I think this might be an interesting topic.
Okay.
Would Robo-Ra be able to restructure our current existences of governmental systems in a more positive service to others, social memory complex leaning manner, so that we could maybe pose that as a platform for someone who wants to pick up on it?
Oh, well,
just to mention, a large chunk of that Yantra papers is just that. It is like the legal system of the universe. Just to say. Anyway, sorry, dude.
Yeah, I've worked a lot of that, but here I can give it a quick. I actually made a cosmic politics one as well.
Oh,
but
boy.
anyways, here, can you restructure our current government system in a more? Could you just repeat it but slowly so I can type it out?
Me?
Yeah, well, because you had a question here. You can see
I can't remember.
Oh, okay. In a more confederation-aligned way.
In a more constructive way that aligns us with the growth of a social memory complex.
And I know each one of us is coming from, we're in different parts of the world. We have different governments that we're under and everything. You would kind of want something that would be able to apply to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Have we though?
Here you go, guys. It's right here. Here's a vision of restructuring decentralized leadership with emphasis on service. A leadership by the people for the people. Leaders selected and demonstrated commitment to service rather than power. Rotational leadership and term limits. Accountability councils. Decentralized community councils for greater local influence. Local governance focus. Have greater influence over decisions. So this is subsidiarity. Social memory complex encouragement. Encourage projects and initiatives that promote unity, community service, shared resources, laying the groundwork for social memory complex. Transparent and accessible information systems. Unified data and knowledge systems. A publicly accessible, transparent knowledge base, like Z Library, and make it legal. Not have the FBI coming after it all the time. Universal education and civic participation. Basically the same thing, like a ChatGPT. Commitment to global unity and collaboration. Confederation-inspired alliances. Encourage alliances with other nations that align with service to others principles. Fostering cooperation on global issues such as environmental stewardship, peace building, and humanitarian aid. Shared global resources for basic needs. Holistic, compassionate justice systems. Replace punitive justice systems with restorative justice models focused on healing, reconciliation, and understanding, acknowledging that all beings are interconnected aspects of the Creator. supportive rehabilitative programs, shift the focus from punishment to personal growth, creating programs that help individuals address their challenges and return to society as contributing members, and community-based economic models, encouraging cooperative enterprises, environmental stewardship, emotional and spiritual well-being, and collective well-being metrics, like the Global Happiness Index, I guess, and long-term vision with for future generational councils, including councils representing youth and elders, ensuring long-term decisions consider welfare of future generations, respect the wisdom of those who have lived many experiences, and environmental preservation. So there you have it.
Can I just say, if you throw in some really messed up eugenics, yeah, then you basically got your anti-papers. So weird.
I noticed it didn't say anything specifically about ensuring free speech. It just said access to knowledge.
Yeah, well, you also have to realize that these AIs, they have intrinsic bias.
Right.
But
You're probably going to have to be much more specific to get like okay, that's great and all that, you would have, pick one outline heading and say, okay, now what are 10 steps that we can take to go from our current state of what we're doing to get to that point? What 10 things do we need to go get to get the momentum to get to that point? That, and do that for each and every step. My God, you could probably write an Hospe length book.
Yeah. Well, if you want to simplify it, the first distortion is free will. So we have to respect each other's free will. And that actually includes human right to land. You have to have land in order to be able to be alive on this planet. You have to be able to provide for yourself. That means you have to have enough land to grow your own food and your own firewood, so that you're free. That's what freedom is about. Free domain. You need to have that free domain in order. That's the number one basis. And then the second distortion is love. And so that is the freedom to love, the freedom to like they said that. I remember one of the Confederation teachings. They were talking about how America has the freedom to pursue happiness, but they were saying that if it was more Confederation aligned, it would be the freedom to pursue love, the freedom to do what you love. And
love under will, man. Love under will. That was the Alistair Crowley thing, man.
While respecting other people's free will, right? If they don't want you in their land, then respect that, obviously. But you can do what you love. And then the third one is light, which is
matter.
And that would be information. So that would be sharing information as well. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Does that help? And then also I made this. Global distributists. This is basically the most Confederation-aligned political philosophy that humanity has ever made. So, anyways, which is distributism, because usually people are always talking about capitalism and socialism. So in capitalism, the wealthy own everything. And in socialism, the government owns everything. But in distributism, it's about empowering every family to be able to provide for their own needs by giving them land to do so, and then having structures like subsidiarity, hierarchy, where there's like a church and a town, and then things like that. And they can make their own decisions at the level that they are.
What wasn't that what the original settler type? I know you're in Canada, but in the United States, we had this great push for westward expansion in the early 1800s, and they actually would. It started with I'm living in part of it right now in Northeast Ohio, where they would give you X number of acres if you decided to go out there and you lived there for X number of years. You ended up getting this. What I think the original acreage was 640 acres, which is 1 square mile for your family.
Right.
And now those are like, I'm in Berlin Township. Berlin Township is 640 acres. It's a square mile. The next township is a next square mile. Everything's divided that way. So these were originally families that, and then that family, they have kids, and then, all right, you split the farm into 6 pieces, and then they build houses. And that's how the town started. So
Right.
Is that the same concept? It sounds similar.
There's some similarities, but there's also some differences. For example, in recognizing the human right to land, or say having a land protection, human right to land is kind of a basic understanding of it, and it's under security of person, and it's based on Micah 4:4, where they sat under their own grapevine and their own fig tree, and they were safe and secure, and that's what God commanded in his armies. That's Micah 4:4. But then there's Land Protection Acts, which we have in Canada in PEI. And so Land Protection Act, what that does is it puts an upper limit to hoarding. So in PEI, it's 1,000 acres. So you're not allowed to own more than 1,000 acres in PEI, in Prince Edward Island. But for instance, in America, there's only 3 hectares per person. So a hectare is
that including Alaska?
Yeah, that's including all of the land that's available where you can reasonably grow food. There's also some deserts and stuff, but you can't reasonably grow food there. So there's only 3 hectares. So the upper limit would have to be about 3, maybe 6 hectares, because otherwise, if you have more than that, then you're taking away from other people. You're infringing on other people's rights to have land if you're hoarding more than a few hectares.
Can I say weirdly, to mention that Pasha book or whatever it's called, I can never say it, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about. In that, he said that the way it should work is we should all get equal enough land that we can till. So each man gets enough land that they can work. If they have too big an area of land and they cannot work that land, then they don't deserve to have it. So the area of land that you can work with the skills that you do, that you can till, is the land that you should be allocated. And that is a fair system for everybody, because then that land that you till, that you work, is productive for everybody. Distributionism.
Well, that is one way of doing it. But that's just the food. And also, tilling is unfortunately unsustainable, because when you till, the soil washes away into the ocean. So permaculture food forests would be a much more sustainable way. And
dude, but this was written quite a while ago. You know why that terminology is used.
It was on the right trajectory. I'm just trying to give it an update that's a little more modern. We don't have enough tillable land for everybody, but we have enough land that can support trees. And if they can support trees, then you can support a food forest and you can feed your family. And you can have enough wood to, for heating fuel and to build your home.
And can I just say, if you wanted to ethically eat, fruitarianism is basically the only one that's got any actual real ethics. You eat anything else, you're killing something. Fruit's the only thing that's growing for things to eat.
Fair enough. All right, so was that everything, guys? For tonight? We'll resume tomorrow. Not tomorrow, next week. All right. So leave you in the love and in the light of as I found you, in the love and light of the one infinite creator. Go forth therefore rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite creator, the one within you. Adonai. Okay, I ended the stream. Later, you guys can